Hey, what's going on, guys? It's cubeatz, and today I'll be breaking down one of my samples. It's my first time doing a video like this, but if y'all want some more like this, just drop down in the comments and let me know. But here's the sample that we're gonna be breaking down today. Damn. So you can hear it's a lot more like kind of boom bap style. But basically the way I start out with every single one of my samples whenever I'm making a melody, I just play around on my keyboard like you just play around anything. I'm not even good at piano, but maybe you'll come across a chord, and that's basically what I did. So I was just playing around. Then I played an F minor. And then just off the bat, I think just with the sound selection, like the Rhodes piano, it just set it off real nice. And then I knew that for my second chord, I kind of wanted something. I didn't want it to be super drastic change with the chords. I wanted the voicing to stay kind of similar. So I know that usually I wanted to just keep one note that was in the original chord and put that into the second one. So what I did, I just played a C minor below that, so it was. Which, off the bat, that's kind of groovy, but I didn't like how big of a jump it was. So what I did is I learned this from a lot of videos, just watching Basicworks beats, anyone. You can invert chords, and this made it so that it wasn't such a drastic change. So instead of being like, it was just. And that I like that a little more because it just doesn't jump that hard, and that's a big thing that I focus on with basically all of my samples. I try to make them smooth and make them transition really well. And then just another thing to help out the transition, I added a high melody, and it's just, and that kind of helps it move along. So here's what this sounds like. Then always I put in a little variation at the end, so I took out the C in this last chord and added one down here. That's just all preference, and then you can see the velocities are different for all these, and it's strummed. And the way you can get like a really human feel is if you actually play it out, but you don't have to play out the whole thing. I literally just play out the chord one by one and go along, and that really gives it a really human feel. And then for the bass note, I just did the root note for the F minor. So usually that's what I do for all mine, but then for this I didn't want it to drop all the way down to the C, so I just used the D sharp as the bass, which sometimes that's not the best idea, but for this the main thing to keep in mind is that even if it doesn't make musical sense to you or anything like that, if it sounds good, that's the most important thing. So like literally if it sounds good, keep it no matter what you're doing. But then basically after that we go in, and this is just like a weird bass thing, and I just play the same notes that were on the root on the little Rhodes piano, and it's just really subtle. Here it is. Then the little variation at the end, bringing it down to a C. But this, I didn't want to have too much. Ooh, I hope. Okay, yeah, this is the right one. You can see this. I took out a lot of the bass, and I just kind of wanted it to fill up the low mid area because I found that was kind of lacking in it. But usually, I don't really have a set to what I go through for my melodies. Like I don't do chords then bass, or chords then melody then all that. It's just kind of whatever comes to my mind at that time, and that's what I recommend other people doing. But then another thing that I added in, I wanted a real bass sound, so a really good free VST called Ample Bass P Lite, really good sounding bass guitar. I use it all the time, and with this I wanted to add a little bit of rhythm into it, so I knew that I went bum 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 bum. So like I can't sing, ignore that, but basically you'll get what I'm saying when I play it. So you can hear it's not just hitting the bass note like on the other thing, so it kind of adds a little bit more. It kind of just helps it flow a little better. So you can hear those three together. And also having this bass note, you can see on the second, like on the second bar is a C, and then on this other one having it be a D sharp, it makes it a little more muddy, if that makes any sense. So if I would have them play the same, it wouldn't have really had that feel that I was going for. So I wanted it to kind of fill it out more. So that's kind of what I was thinking there. And I'm not going to play this clavinet because that's the most important thing. I'm going to save that for last. But then then the next thing I chose to do was it's another kind of electric piano, but I wanted this to have a little more rhythm into it. Like I said, most important things to me are making sure it's smooth and also having a really nice rhythm into it. So this is what I came up with. So you can hear it's a little different than the other one because it has stuff hitting here and it's on just different rhythm than the other things, and it kind of add a little more bounce to it so you can hear what it sounded like with this. Oh, god damn. You can also hear that it adds a little sparkle up top, which, if you look at a lot of older samples, they have like a really nice bright high end, so I kind of wanted to throw that in there. Then next I have another Rhodes electric piano thing. So that you can hear, I didn't want to strum these. I kind of wanted to add a little more impact into it, so I didn't really strum them. The velocities are still a little different, add a little bit of a human feel. But this is just to kind of keep the sample a little more on beat than the other things, and just to add a little more, I guess, depth to the sample. And I noticed that really helped it a lot. But then the last melodic component, which was super important, is this clavinet. Clavinet sounds kind of like a guitar, and I was looking for a guitar for this. Like with sound selection, I usually narrow it down to basically what kind of instrument I want. So like say I have a sample, I'm not going to be like, okay, I want a soft sound. You need to narrow it down more. That's how I have to do it. So I'm like, okay, I want a soft bell that's kind of ambient, or I want a harsh guitar that still has a little bit of crunch and it's a little ambient, or stuff like that. So that way you can kind of narrow down what you're looking for. And I knew the clavinet, I needed something to add some rhythm, because you could hear here without it. Man, my computer geeking. But you can hear here, this is a cool sample, but it's nothing crazy. So you can hear that is cool. But then this is the big part. So basically what you can see here is this is kind of what makes you remember what the sample is. That's how I know whenever I separate my decent samples from my really good ones. So I know that this is one of my really good ones because there's a sound that you remember. Like if you listen to a lot of big songs, like the samples that you hear, like take for example Rollin' Peace, the flute is just so rememberable, and Mask Off, so is the flute is there, and you need to have something that makes people really remember the sample. So I knew that having this in here would, so I'm just gonna let y'all hear it real quick. So that doesn't sound like much alone, but once I throw it in with the whole thing, you'll hear like the impact it has. So for this, I knew that I wanted to kind of have a wah effect, like, you know, a lot of guitar amps, you can add that effect on there. But luckily this preset came with it. So basically what I did, you can see to start off at 1, it's just an F minor chord, which is what I started off on the other one. And then over here, it's not hitting at the exact same time as the chord on the other one. So like on the other one, so you can see here, it's like before halfway through, but then you can see here, oh, it's not hitting until the second one. So I knew that I could get the chord to be a little different, like it didn't have to be that same one. So that's how I added in that bouncer. Man, that was weird. But that's how I added in that bounce there, because I thought of this kind of like a drum. Because where do you get all your bounce from? You get it from a drum. So I was saying like boom, 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 boom. So like that's kind of like what the rhythm is right here. And then here you can also see that the notes are shortened. The reason to do that is that once you cut off like a note really quickly, you're kind of waiting it for it to be resolved. So like it's like bum 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 bum. So having that like filled out at the end, that kind of gives it like a sense of resolution, which is really important, like just in general for any music. You don't want to leave your listener hanging. So that's kind of why I did that. Then of course, this I couldn't play it out, so I just strummed the notes. Then I changed the velocities, and just all of that. Those are the main things you have to make sure it sounds like a human did it if you're trying to do a boom bap thing. But here's what they all sound like. I'll play it before and after. This is without the clavinet. Damn, 3 times. Oh my gosh. Okay, one sec. Y'all get that, man. My bad, my computer be geeking, so I apologize for that. And also, one thing, sometimes like this doesn't sound as good as you think, like compared to this, but once you make it louder, it'll make it sound better. That's just how everything works. And then for the hi-hats, I like adding some drums and just a little bit of percussion in the background of a lot of my samples, especially if you're doing this boom bap stuff or you're trying to make some of those vintage samples, because at that point you're not just making a sample, you're trying to emulate a real song, and songs usually have drums in them. So I just wanted to have some hi-hats in it. And these, I don't really have them off beat because a lot of the other things are kind of already off the grid, so I didn't need that too much. But what I do, I pulled up the attack a little on the hi-hat just so it didn't hit so hard. And then also you have to tune your your drums. Some of them are atonal, so like a lot of trap drums won't really have a tone. But with some of these that are sampled off of real drum kits, they will. So you can go just to edit an audio editor, the tech pitch region C. That's in key, so I knew that that'd be fine, so you can hear. That's just kind of like a super simple. Then same with the snare, you have to tune the snare. I'd pitch it down 300 because it was G sharp / a C sharp, and I knew that if I just pitched it down 3, that would make it F, and if it's not that F, then it would end up being, I don't know, some other note, I forget. But you saw how those 2 tones, I just went to, I thought that the G sharp is what it sounded like most, so I just tuned it down to F, which is in key. Same with the ride, pitch it up 200 cents because it wasn't in key. And all that, and that just kind of adds to it, so you can hear. Okay, I can't play it for too long because that would be geeking. But then the way that I do after the samples is boom bap. You know, you kind of need it to have that vintage feel in it. So I just pitched it down 200, which kind of degrades the sample, which can sometimes be a bad thing, but in this case it was fine. But then you can hear. that there. Then I added some RC20 retro color, really cool, just to add a little bit of vinyl in it, and it also takes out a little bit of bass down here in the cutoff. You can see that. Then just an EQ to get rid of that bass, because the bass is just too much. You can hear the difference with the bass on and off. I just didn't like all the bass that was in there, so I threw those on. And basically that's how it is. This tutorial, you know, it's a little harder to break down because there are just a lot more components than I'd usually have. But if y'all want me to break down some other stuff, I could do one on some of my guitars that I'm making, which is a guitar pack that's coming out very soon. And I also just dropped my most recent kit, my 4th kit. It's called Wave Runner. It's really good, and I have some different stuff. It's not like this. You can hear a few of the things. So like if you want to break down something like that, or maybe something darker that's a little more like this. Like some 21 Savage stuff, some jazz. Literally anything y'all want me to break down, I can break down any of that stuff. Just drop it down. And if y'all want to see me cook up live, like, you know, I can go live on YouTube, or I can just make a tutorial so that y'all can hear my whole thought process. I'm definitely not the best sample maker out there. There are a ton of really good ones, but I'm just trying to show y'all my thought process through them. Basically just how I make them. This is just my first one, but I'm going to have plenty more in the future. And if y'all want a really cool video that I'm thinking of doing, it's 50 tips, which range in different like kind of levels, so like beginner tips, medium, and high level tips, expert tips, all into one video. I'm thinking of doing that, so if y'all are interested in that, please let me know down in the comments. And basically just recommend me whatever you want. Basically that's it from me. I'll hopefully catch y'all later, and I'm out. Peace.